1 minute following midnight on January 16, 1920, it became illegal to buy, sell, manufacture, or transport any alcoholic beverage within the United States and its surrounding territories. The generation of the Prohibition era is defined by the many outcomes of this time period: a rise in crime through gang wars and bootlegging, the creation of an underground subculture of speakeasies and flappers, and general discontent in the government. There are many social, medical, economic, and political factors that led up to the ratification of the 18th Amendment. However, the effects of this legislation were far greater.
The years preceding Prohibition were a time of drinking and fun for the youth of the generation of the 20s. The war had ended and it was time to celebrate, boozing, dancing, and driving the newly mass-produced automobile. But with these activities came lowered personal hygiene and more promiscuous sexual activities. This supposed immoral behavior led to a conservative uproar that had been incubating in the country for quite some time.
Temperance groups have been around since the 1870s. Feeling it was a responsibility to protect the moral fiber of society, they went around preaching the ills associated with the consumption of alcohol. One such temperance movement was known as the Women's Christian Temperance Union, also known as the WCTU. Founded in 1874, it was developed out of the Women's Temperance Crusade, a group of women across 23 states who entered saloons to sing hymns, pray, and appeal to saloon keepers to stop selling their devil juice.
The WCTU was led by a woman named Frances E. Willard. Willard, born in 1839, was first president of the local WCTU branch in Chicago, where she worked as a social reformer. Willard then proceeded to become the national president of the WCTU in 1879. While president, Frances traveled the world, working to form an international temperance union. At her death in 1898, the nation showed its grief by flying flags at half-mast in Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C.
No temperance discussion would be complete without the mention of hatchet-carrying Carrie Nation, easily one of the most well-known women associated with the temperance movement. Born Carrie Amelia Moore, during her childhood she suffered uncomfortable anxiety attacks and experienced so-called visions. Her first marriage to an alcoholic doctor ended horribly with his death from complications with his alcoholism a short 2 years after their marriage. Carrie's second marriage to a man named David Nation in 1890 proved to be a more positive experience. At least he wasn't constantly nursing the bottle. In 1899, Carrie claimed she had a vision where God instructed her to literally smash up a bar in Kiowa, Kansas. Before this vision, Carrie had not partaken in the temperance union, but this vision encouraged her to join. Sometimes with followers, but usually alone, Carrie would approach saloons yelling her battle cry, "Smash, smash, for the love of Jesus, smash," and proceed to destroy the bar with her hatchet, a crowbar, or even a rock. Such is the story with Dodson's Saloon in Kansas. They must have been running for the hills the minute they saw that 6-foot-tall, 200-pound woman bearing down on them, hatchet in hand. Not much was left of Dodson's Saloon after Carrie was finished with it. The place was in shambles, which made for great news stories. Reporters followed Carrie around like a celebrity, chomping at the bit to see what she would do next. This press, even though some was negative, provided much exposure for the temperance movement, raising Carrie to famous status. Her antics landed Nation in jail 30 times between 1900 and 1910. Before her death in 1911, she published her memoirs titled The Use and Need of the Life of Carrie A. Nation.
Temperance unions used medical reasons to fuel their arguments. Before this time, doctors would often prescribe alcohol as medication for different ailments, but the 1900s saw doctors turning their attentions to the detrimental effects of alcohol, of which there were many. Many men suffered from sclerosis, a disease that attacks the liver and is brought on by overabundant alcohol consumption. Eventually, the afflicted die of this disease. Lung cancer, usually brought on by smoking, also became associated with alcohol because it most often occurred in saloons where alcohol was served. These diseases were seen as harmful to the foundation of family because it forced women to cope on their single income to support a family, and children were being raised without their fathers.
Consumption of alcohol was also seen as harmful to the economy. Capitalists and industry leaders reported abundant absences associated with alcohol. Many workers were calling in sick because of hangovers or drunkenness. Drunkenness on the job led to depleted safety, and even more important to the capitalists, reduced production. Workers under the influence were not as capable of working effectively, thus slowing down the production of the entire factory.
Politicians sometimes use these economic reasons to back their pro-prohibition platform. Most politicians adopted this pro-attitude to gain more votes, especially in rural areas where many votes were swayed by the opinion of the local church. And seeing as how the Protestant church was a huge backer in the temperance union, it was beneficial to take the same point of view from a political standpoint. Oftentimes, churches would even persuade entire congregations to vote for a candidate who promised to back prohibition in the government.
All these various pressures led to the signing of the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, which stated, quote, "The manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within, the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territory subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited." This had a domino effect, causing negative aftershocks to rake the country.
These negative aftershocks, the most important may be the rise in crime. Before Prohibition, most Americans were law-abiding people, but Prohibition turned many people into law-breakers. Even the police fell into sin of drink and were easily corrupted into helping with illegal activities. People didn't see anything wrong with having a few drinks, and besides, everyone was doing it. These people needed a place to drink, thus the creation of the speakeasy. Created in the 1890s after the first states adopted Prohibition, speakeasies were underground secret clubs where people could drink illegal alcohol, dance, and generally be merry. Usually, one had a secret knock or password to gain entrance into these illegal bars, which could be located anywhere from the fanciest restaurants to the shadiest dive. Reaching their height of popularity in 1924 to 1923, a cultural history of the United States suggests Club 21 was perhaps the most popular speakeasy. Located in Manhattan, this secret club, run by Jack Kreindler and Charlie Burns, was often frequented by many famous people, including the mayor of New York himself, Jimmy Walker, which just goes to show how even the higher-ups of society fell into illegal action.